Most thumbnails don't fail because they're ugly, they fail because they break these 3 rules. See, over the last 2 years, I've been studying thumbnails from some of the best creators on YouTube, and I found 3 simple rules that took my click-through rate from a 2% to an 8.5%. But when I hear other creators explain these same rules, they make it sound super complicated, so I'm gonna break them down in just a few minutes. Starting with rule number 1, having an outlier concept. Look at this video from Simon Squibb. It got 1.5 million views. Now, at first glance, you might not notice anything crazy when it comes to the thumbnail, but once you do the research, everything starts to click. And you might be saying, well, this is just a thumbnail with some text on it, but that's far from the truth because it was strategically planned and it's already been proven to work. Look, this thumbnail has the same text on it and has 2.7 million views. This thumbnail has the same text on it and has 4 million views. And then these 2 thumbnails are almost the same text as well and have 1.5 million views and 470,000 views. And this is not a coincidence. This process is called outlier ideation, and it's exactly how the top creators on YouTube are finding thumbnail concepts that actually work. And it's the same thing we did for this client to take his videos from sitting around 100 views to getting over 5,000 views on a couple videos and even booking 10 calls in a single month. Now, if you want to see if we can help you do the same, you can book a call below using the first link in the description. We guarantee 10 to 20 calls per month from YouTube, but you don't have to pay us a dime. So if that's something that interests you, just book a call below. But either way, let me show you how to use this outlier process for yourself. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is find 20 creators on YouTube. Now, if you're in the educational niche, some good ones to get you started would be like Alex Hormozi, Simon Squibb, Iman Ghazi, Jordan Welsh, and kind of just go down that rabbit hole. But usually the bigger they are, the better, because it means they're already dialed in and their concepts are going to be pretty wide, so you can fit like a lot of ideas within them. And what you're going to do once you find, say, 1 or 20 creators, you're going to go to their YouTube videos, you're going to go to their video feed, and you're going to sort through the most popular videos they have so you can see their best performing posts. And from there, you're going to see what aligns with your niche and your ideas. So for example, if we just scroll through Hormozi, some really high performing videos are up here, and you'll see something like the full guide blueprint. You can easily replicate something like this, whether it's like, a masterclass, or even you could replicate a similar title. Like if I wanted to, book 30 calls in X days, this is what I do. And then it's like a full guide blueprint. And you can use like tweet outliers like this, but the main thing to note here is that it's the text that's performed well, not the actual concept of like the tweet. So for the Simon Squibb example, you saw that all the thumbnails were exactly the same with like the same text. So when you do replicate these, just make sure you're replicating the text and not like the concept. As for stuff like this, you can actually replicate a similar concept. So if it's like how to get ahead of 99% of people in sales, or how to get ahead of 99% of people in, or how to rank higher than 99% of people on Google, that would be a really good one. And you could use a simple like graphic like this as well. But having an outlier concept is only one part of the equation, because if you don't know why something works, then you're probably just gonna end up breaking it. And that brings us to the next rule of thumbnails: always make things clear. Look, here's an example using 2 Alex Hormozi thumbnails. You can see one of his older videos, he has this thumbnail which pretty much just has a bunch of random stuff on it. Like I don't even know what's happening. There's like a bomb going off, I can barely read the text, and it's honestly distracting more than it is helpful. But now let's look at one that's actually pretty solid. Like you can just see immediately, you know what the video is gonna be about. You assume it's about how to get to XYZ followers, even if you're starting from 0, or what to do if you're at 0 followers. Essentially, you know what the video is about without actually having to, sit there and think about it. Because after all this stuff is happening like subconsciously when it comes to like grabbing attention. But here's how you actually nail down clarity yourself. The first is to use the 3-element framework, which is coined by Patty Galloway. Because like I mentioned, all this attention grabbing stuff is done subconsciously, so your brain doesn't even realize what stops the scroll. You're just gonna choose 3 elements in your thumbnail just to keep things super simple, whether it's a text, whether it's a graphic, it's a background, or something along those lines. But let's look at some examples. You can look at this one. It's it's the books, it's the laptop, and then it's text, and then it's 2 different backgrounds. Like I would say the books and the laptop kind of count as one element, the text kind of counts as one element, and then he counts as an element, and then the background split into 2 counts an element. I don't think that this would necessarily be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements. I think it's safe to say something like this fits in the 3-element framework. And this is another good example. So it's like him, the background is barely noticeable, and then he has text, and then he has this graphic, which is pretty much saying use this 3rd step to close the deal. And that's pretty much how the thumbnail should go. And then you have this one, which is pretty much him, it's the text, and then it's the graphic, which is somebody on top of what appears to be 99% of other people. And this is pretty much perfectly following the 3-element rule. So just pick 3 and move on. But even if you do just stick with 3 elements, you could still ruin the clarity. So make sure to avoid stuff like small text, busy backgrounds that compete with the text, too many subjects or main areas of focus, text that blend into the image, or just an overall cluttered composition. And by now you have the concept and the clarity, but if you miss this next step, then the design is going to completely flop, because this can be the difference between having something that stands out or drowns in the sea of creators. And that rule is to always have contrast. Like I said, your brain processes things quicker than you'd imagine. So if you have something that's dark or dull or just blends in with the feed, it's not going to stand out from the millions of other posts that are to choose from. Like, look at these two Iman Ghazi thumbnails. Which is going to stand out more? This one, the dark, dull millionaire habits, or something like this, where it actually has a lot of colors and is something that would actually look attractive on the feed? And here's how you actually do it for yourself. The first thing you're going to want to do is actually research your industry's like visual patterns. So a good example is like drop shipping, and you can see right immediately, like you can start to pick up on what works well, what colors are standing out, and you can just see it's a lot of like green stuff. And this is just really like basic market research to understand like what's actually working. See a lot of green with like the Amazon, it's probably a lot of orange graphs and stuff like that. So you'll get a good understanding of what like color palettes actually work with the audience. But that doesn't mean just making everything green or all one color. You have to actually create contrasting colors. And you can do something like a color wheel. And all you have to do is choose colors that are complementary to each other. So whatever's on one side of the color wheel, you're going to want to choose something on the other side. Mr. Beast is a great example of this, even though he's not in the educational niche. But red and yellow, green and red, blue and red, yellow, blue, red, and green in this one, which is crazy. And then he even has stuff like blue and yellow, red and green. So it's a lot of blue, yellows, red, and green. And then Iman Ghazi does something similar. He does a lot of stuff that is basically red and green. You can see this one has a lot of different colors, but a lot of red and green stuff. For him, it's more around signaling like good or bad, like drained, energized, stuff like that. You could tell these top creators are using complementary colors in all their thumbnails. And then the last part is just to invest in high quality headshots, because if we go back to the Iman Ghazi thumbnail, you could see that the first one was super low quality and kind of just lowered his perceived status, whereas the new one made him seem like an authority before you even clicked on the video. And when you're a business owner, status is pretty important, so you want to make sure to have it nailed down. And I hate to break it to you, but no thumbnail designer is going to save your awful camera quality, so you actually have to get something that looks solid on the camera first and then toss it to a designer. Now that's pretty much everything I learned when it comes to thumbnails over the past 2 years, but getting people to click on the video is only one part of the process, because you still need to script out the entire thing. So if you want to see how I script out videos using AI, watch this video over here and I'll see you over there.